Greetings, programs, and welcome to The Gaming Outsider, a video game podcast with a focus on our incredible community. I'm here with Zach Parkerson. What's up, man?
Hey, man, it should be season's greetings, though, Scott.
Fair enough. This is our, I guess, our Christmas episode, technically. This is going to be airing the week of Christmas.
I prefer to think of it as a non-denominational winter holiday episode.
Sure. Way to keep it binary, man. I like it.
I don't want to pick a side.
Yes. This is our holiday, what do you call it? Non-denominational winter holiday?
Yes, there you go. Mm-hmm.
Wow, yeah. I like that. We're doing something a little bit different this week. We are actually taking the week off. So instead of doing a regular episode, we are going to give you guys some snippets of some interviews that we did over the course of the year. So we got 3 interviews for you. You may have heard these before, but if you're brand new to the podcast, you will not want to miss these because we got a chance to sit down with 3 voice actors and actresses from the industry. The first being Roger Craig Smith. You probably know him as Ezio Auditore from the Assassin's Creed series.
Roger's really great because if you like the interview, you should check out that episode because he's on the whole time.
He is on the entire episode, and yeah, if you like this, go check out the entire episode because he was a freaking riot to talk to. So much fun. And also, the second one is going to be an interview we did with Jon St. It was actually part of last year. It was actually our first episode we did with the new crew, and he was a ton of fun to talk to, so you'll be able to hear that episode. And then lastly, more recently, we talked to Patricia Summersett, who plays the voice of Zelda in Breath of the Wild. So you'll get to hear all 3 of those episodes back to back right now, and they're gonna love it, right, Zach?
Yeah, I think so. Jon St. John's a lot of fun. Patricia's great. Roger Craig Smith's a funny guy. He gave me a compliment, and that went a long way with me.
Nice.
I'll never forget it.
We probably should preface it that when you get to the Jon St. John interview, it's not safe for work, probably not safe for families, because if you know anything about Duke Nukem,
right? He's got a persona to maintain.
Yes, he does. So just be aware if you're listening with small children, you may want to turn away for a little bit. But you don't want to listen to us banter back and forth. You want to hear those interviews. We will catch you at the end of all 3 of the interviews to say some wrap up and give you guys some holiday greetings. But without further ado, here are the interviews with Roger Craig Smith, Jon St. John, and Patricia Summersett. You know him as the voice of Chris Redfield in Resident Evil, Ezio Auditore in Assassin's Creed, Batman in Batman Arkham Origins, and the current voice of Sonic the Hedgehog. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the show Mr. Roger Craig Smith. Roger, how you doing, sir?
I'm good.
Oh, man.
There's breath. How you guys doing?
We're the ones that are supposed to be nervous, man. What's up with that?
No, everything's good. We're good.
This is what Captain America sounds like in his downtime, guys.
Avengers assemble.
That's fantastic.
Hi, Scott. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, we're really excited to talk to you, and I got to ask you to do something for me because I know it's you get asked this all the time, but I have been dying to ask you this since I talked to you like a couple years ago when you interviewed one of my students. If you remember that,
I do. Yes,
Amanda, who's actually not at my school anymore, but she was so excited. We talked about that a couple weeks ago when we had Sissy on. But I've been dying to ask you to do something for me just because I'm a huge fan of Assassin's Creed.
Oh boy. Okay.
You gotta do the line for me. Just one time. Rest in peace in Latin.
I was gonna say thank you for calling 1-800-Assassino.
That famous line.
The dating line for Ezio. Requiescat in pace.
There it is.
You know, here, I have a fun anecdote about Ezio.
Yeah.
Is that at work, every time I make a great latte, because I'm a barista, and whenever I hand it off to the customer, I say, va bene, because there's a freaking Ezio.
And here's what's funny, like, when I was in Italy, whenever I got a due cappuccino per favore, I would, because I had to memorize that, I would, when they'd give it to me, I'd say grazie mille. Because I remember just saying grazie mille as Ezio so many times, which is like, thanks a million, which is probably more than like, I don't know, if somebody just hands you a cup of coffee, I don't go, thanks a million. Thanks so much for my cup of coffee.
That depends on the day you've had. That actually could hold weight.
It also depends on how many coffees you've had so far.
True. Yes.
Well,
and so everything
know.
I've learned about Italy and Italian as a language is all from parodying it back in a video game from 2009.
Hey, you know what? That's where I learned it too.
Oh.
I have replayed Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood within the last like 2 or 3 years. So yeah,
Is it holding up?
it
Good.
really is. Well, it's the remastered collection, so I didn't play
there we go.
the original, but it's still a great game. I'm a massive fan of the Assassin's Creed series, though, so a little biased, just a little bit. So
As am I. And I've become good friends with Victoria Atkin, who was Evie Fry as well. And so,
nice.
Yeah, it's neat to see, like, it's just carrying on. And the fans are the best. They really are, like, it's just a really neat, unique, supportive sort of fan base for that entire franchise. So it's neat. I'm a fan of the franchise, for sure.
Now, so what's that like playing a game? Because you do play. We talked to some voice actors that just don't play at all. They just do their thing and then go home. But you actually play them?
I always, anytime I've been a part of something, I try to play it because so much of what we do is theater of the mind, and we never really get a chance to see what it is that we're a part of. And because I'm coming in so late into the game in terms of like the development process, and yet I still don't necessarily see everything. Like it's rare that we get to see even like an animatic of what they might have in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, and because it's a hugely collaborative effort, I like to see what they accomplished. You know, it's I've always made the sort of awkward analogy of sort of birthing this vocal baby and handing it to somebody and hoping that the baby is pretty or ugly or it's not up to me. So we always just hand off what we do, and sometimes we do multiple versions of things, so we really don't know what they're going to choose or what they're going to go with. So at the very end, when it's all sort of come to fruition with everybody's input, the designers, the animators, the writers who have tweaked things, all that kind of stuff, it's neat to see the finished product. And so I always try to play. Sometimes I don't get all the way through, but I always try to fire it up and kind of go, okay. And I'm like a lot of anybody who's done something from like an artistic perspective. You always just, you hate the sound of your own voice, and you hear the performance, and you go, oh, I could have done so much better with that, or why did they choose that take, or I'm so bad at this, that kind of thing. So I tend not to spend too much time on it because it's just sort of like, oh boy, I'm gonna be beating myself up over this.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's hard to finish an Assassin's Creed game too without committing a good 30, 40 hours of your life to playing that game. So
I did finish all of mine though. That was selfish, but it was also because I actually became just a fan of the game. Mm-hmm. In doing research for AC2, I started playing the original Assassin's Creed, and I was like, okay, I can get why. I can see some of the complaints. I can understand some of the stuff that people were complaining about, but I can also see why this was so ambitious and such a cool concept to attempt, and so I became a fan.
What's really interesting is that I learned about Assassin's Creed from Chris. I didn't even know the game series existed. I remember specifically sitting with him at a Dave & Buster's for a birthday party or something, and he started talking about Assassin's Creed, and I had no idea what he was talking about. For some reason, the game just completely flew under my radar, and he's like, you got to check out this game, and blah, blah, blah. And I picked it up, and yeah, just like you said, despite the flaws that everybody talks about that first game, I still enjoyed it, and I feel like they really perfected it with Assassin's Creed 2. So
I worked at a Dave & Buster's through college too, so
oh really?
It's all coming full circle. Oh yeah,
nice.
Yeah. I was a bar back at first, and then I worked my way up to cocktail server, and then was working in the main dining room for lunches during college.
So what got you into voice acting? What made you take that plunge from Dave & Buster's to doing what you do now?
Yeah, why did you sacrifice your Dave & Buster's career for something?
I was just going to say, what got you into anything else at working at Dave & Buster's? No, so I was doing, so as a kid, I was, doing musical theater and things like that. And then sort of in high school, I was doing theater arts. And I got outside of high school when I was going to be a rock star and all this stuff and playing the drums and rock bands and things and trying to figure myself out. But I had always been a ham and a goofball, and people were like, oh, you're funny, you should do stand-up. And I, at 17, you're like, what am I going to talk about? But then all of a sudden I found myself in my early 20s and, going, hang around places in LA and going, oh, that's what an open mic is? Like, I could probably try to do that, And so signed up and did an open mic at a place called the Ha Ha Cafe on Lancashire Boulevard, and it went well, and I got bitten by that bug, and it was sort of incorporating a lot of things that I liked, of just sort of like writing and performing and that kind of thing. And then the more I did stand-up comedy, the more people within the industry would ask, because based on the advice of my theater arts instructor from high school, who I went back to high school, this is many years later, I went back to go perform my stand-up in front of her to get her feedback. And when I did it, that was the very first time that I was attempting all this, she stopped and was like, I'm not going to be nice. I'm going to tell you what I think. And I went, good. And she goes, where are your characters? You are always a character guy. She goes, don't just do this observational stuff. Anybody can do that. So instead of making observational jokes, why not become the character that you're mocking, or the entity that you're mocking, and that kind of thing. And then we can laugh at you sort of vicariously through you and that kind of thing. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I started incorporating voices and characters in my act from the get-go, and that's what kind of people enjoyed about my comedy, was the switching in and out of characters and stuff. But then more and more people in the business were hearing that and saying, who represents you for voiceover? You should literally, you should. It wasn't about like, hey, you're a really great comedian, you should keep pursuing this. It's like, hey, you ever thought about this? Like, why not bark up that tree? I think that's going to be where you want to be. So it really was stand-up that kind of got me into doing voiceover, but that was because of all the other things that had sort of led me up to stand-up and that kind of thing.
That's awesome. Like, I didn't even know you did stand-up, honestly. I guess I should have.
I did, yeah, for about 5 years.
So is there can I go buy a Roger Craig Smith comedy album, or was it?
No, thankfully, no. No, and I am so fortunate and so happy that I missed the generation of everybody had phones and could just, I don't know how they do it today with trying to work out new material. It's interesting. I mean, and to be totally honest, I recently did a set at Flappers in Burbank with Gray Delisle and Carlos Salas-Rocky, and we did just a voiceover group, stand-up night. Mm-hmm. And it was great. We had 100 people that showed up on a Tuesday evening, which was a sellout for them in that sort of main room that they have there. And I was so depressed the next day. It was the weirdest thing. I was like, I don't want to get out of bed. I hated myself, and I went through all this stuff where I was just like, oh, revisiting this time in my life when I thought I was happy and doing this thing, really and truly, I was so directionless and just trying to throw anything against the wall to see what was going to stick. But I felt like I was just doing stuff that wasn't me, that I don't think I was believing in and that kind of thing. So all of a sudden at 43, I was revisiting things that were happening at 23, and I just went, wow, I was not expecting that. But I went, wow, that was a good thing for me to go, because it was like dipping my toes back in those waters of performance and live on stage, and I didn't like it. I was not happy. So it's a weird thing to kind of go back. I'm thankful for what it was in my life at the time to get me to where I'm at, but I don't miss it. I have a ton of respect for people still doing it. More
comfortable in the booth then, huh?
By all means, yes. The joke is that, as I'm doing what I'm doing, nobody's on the other side of the glass going, boo!
Right.
You stink! I heard that! It's an old joke, dude. And if that is happening on the other side of the glass, then I'm having a very bad session. And really and truly what it was for me, the impetus for even exploring this was all of a sudden I went and did my first voiceover gig. I mean, I went and did a week out in Indianapolis at Crackers in Indianapolis. The comedy, there's always Flappers and Ha Ha Cafe. Yes. And you're here at Crackers in downtown. And so I did Crackers for a week, and I was middling, so I was the middle act just before the headliner, and I was only getting $500 for the week. And they're nice enough to put you up in these comedy condos, what they call them, and they're just horrifically scary places. And my flight was, I think, $398, so I was already at $100, for the week, and then the flight was delayed coming out on Wednesday, so they docked me $75 because I missed the first show.
Oh no!
I literally was getting dropped off from the airport as the show was in the middle of it, and so I'd already missed it, and so they're like, "Well, we're not going to pay you for tonight." And by the time I left, it was like I was down $125 trying to feed myself and get around Indianapolis, that kind of thing. And it's like, meanwhile, you go and you do a voiceover thing for 20 minutes. It was my first ever voiceover gig, was like $75, and took me 20 minutes. And I was like, this is amazing. And it was fun, and people are friendly. And, it's like, this is great. And I didn't have to memorize anything. I just read something that was in front of me and had fun. And so, yeah, it was much nicer to be in an air-conditioned booth than a freaky comedy stage.
What was your first gig that when he talked about?
The first voiceover gig ever was actually a training video for dialysis nurses.
Oh,
I swear. So, and it was the weirdest thing. Recently, I was pulling up. Was gonna go get dinner with a buddy, and I pulled up in front of this place, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, it was DaVita. DaVita is the name of the company. It's like DaVita Dialysis, I guess. I guess they're dialysis clinics, and I'm sure they have nurses that are trained specifically there.
We have several in this area.
Do they? Okay. So it was a DaVita training video. And I showed up and it was at a recording studio in Cypress, California. And this guy that was doing it was taking film clips, and he liked to make the training videos fun for the nurses. So he would take actual movie clips and just overdub, not trying to reanimate or anything, just overdub, the dialogue, but with like dialysis training stuff. And so he had me doing like, Yoda, like different Yoda characters and all sorts of different, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember what it was. A bunch of different stuff. So we did like 11 different things, and I was down in like 20 minutes, and I got $75. And I remember like leaving, going, that was great. I'm leaving here in a better mood than when I arrived, which is not usually how comedy goes.
Right.
And so I just remember thinking, what a trip. And it all of a sudden, it just like a light went off. I went, oh, screenwriting was my major in college. And it did incorporate elements of writing and understanding how to interpret copy and scripts and character arc and all that kind of stuff. Stand-up was thinking fast on your feet and coming up with it. Everybody always wants to know what else you got. And that's voiceover too. Like, when they say give us 3 in a row of a particular line, they want to hear you do 3 different takes on it. And so you just get to keep exploring stuff like that. So it was a dialysis nurse's training video was my first ever paid official voiceover gig.
Well, speaking of comedy, Chris has dabbled in stand-up comedy a little bit. So I guess one of the things we can take from this is that
shocking.
Thanks, I think.
I mean, it didn't work out for him because he's stuck doing this podcast with us. So he didn't make it.
It's Scott Clark's fault that I'm not Hollywood.
Yeah.
Well, and the
misery of it all.
Funny is hard too, but.
Oh, see.
And Zach, is it right? It's Zach.
That's me.
Yeah, he comes in with the little. He's what we call like a comedy sniper. He's the guy who just sits. He's out on the perimeter, and he's just waiting and waiting, and then he just sends the shot, and it's just it obliterates everybody.
He never runs out of ammo.
He's got the hack.
There's one thing,
Chris, did it not? So what? You dabbled in it?
I did. I've always enjoyed comedies. I love Saturday Night Live. I always thought that I took an improv class in college just to see what it was all about, and I actually killed with the line that I did. So I'm like, okay, this is pretty neat. And a friend of mine was emceeing around the local bars and said, hey, if you want to come in and do set or two, before our main act. We had some fairly, I would say mid-card, if you will, mid-card comedy acts that came in that did like the Tonight Show and did all those, big shows and everything. And he gave me the first or second billing to, open the night. Yeah. And I made like $20 for the night, or, so one time if it was, a bigger crowd, he'd give me $50, just for hanging and just for doing a show, and it's just,
that's cool.
It didn't pan out. It was just like a hobby thing, and it just came up and just kind of, get a set together and go. And that's kind of how, I had adulting that got in the way, so I had to go do some more adulting versus that.
Stupid adulting.
I know.
Gets in the way of everything.
It does. But it was fun. I have no regrets.
Zach, do you have something snarky to contribute to this?
I'll let him off the hook this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hallelujah! All it took. That's all it took.
Be generous.
The one get out of free jail card.
You bet.
Get out of free jail card? Get out of jail free card. This is why I don't do stand-up anymore.
Roger, I know one thing I want to ask you, because I've always wondered this. When it comes to doing voice work, I know that you do a lot of video games. That's what you're known for in our community. But you also do some film. I know I actually saw Wreck-It Ralph 2, or Ralph Breaks the Internet. And you had
that's what they're going with, I guess.
Yeah, you had, because you're Sonic, Is there any difference between doing film and video game, or is it all just a booth and reading a line, or is there any quirks about it that's different?
I guess performance is performance, but games tend to be, and it's interesting because I've actually stepped back from games for a number of years now. We haven't really kind of pursued it all that much. The reason being, it was a combination of content for me, and a decision of kind of going, oh, I'm doing a lot of animation that's geared towards kids, and it felt sort of weird to kind of go, I'm gonna do this video game where I'm screaming the F word, over and over and over again, and then go right back and start telling kids, like teaching kids about how to bake cookies and stuff, like on an Amazon series kind of thing. And so I had a talk with my agent and said, like, I think we should step back and let it, it's like, oh, hey, look, another zombie game, is coming down the pike, with a Caucasian male with a 5 o'clock shadow who's got snarky quips and basically is a ripoff of, Indiana Jones. Let's not bother with this stuff anymore. And so we focused strictly on animation. And the benefit of that, too, is that games as a session tend to be really long, and they tend to take a full 4 hours, or now with performance capture, an entire 8-hour day. With voiceover for animation, it tends to be they know very clearly what they want to get. They've storyboarded everything out. And while you might go in and play around with certain lines and that kind of thing, it's not like games where you have to cover every conceivable sort of option that, because it's interactive, that the player might introduce. If the player wants to go over and just sit in the corner and jump and try to find glitches in the game over and over again, if you only have one jump sound, it sounds awful. It sounds like a 1980s, game.
Mm-hmm.
So they cover all those sounds, and that's usually the most taxing element of the voiceover element on games, to say nothing of the sheer volume of content that has to go into a game that might be 60 hours long if we're lucky. Versus an 11-minute or a 22-minute episode of a animated series,
right?
Or even just work for like a film. It's not all that extensive. So the volume of lines that you have to record in a 4-hour period of time for games, the vocally taxing screams and yells and grunts and efforts and all that stuff, that's what kind of separates it for the most part. That being said, animation can still be taxing on the voice, because you just do so much with your voice by changing it around and doing that kind of thing. And so it's none of these are problems. It's all not bad stuff. It's still a ton of fun, but it as far as games go, there's a very different process to it.
Mm-hmm.
But the performance is almost always the same, depending upon the content. If it's a grounded game, I would imagine that, what is it, Bendy and the Ink Machine?
Right.
Based on the title alone, I'm assuming it's maybe a little more broad and silly and kind of fun. So you might not have a very grounded and theatrical performance, whereas with something like Assassin's Creed, we were trying to go for the drama and the theater element of it. So you try to do a more theatrical performance, as opposed to when I go in to do like Unikitty for Cartoon Network, it's super broad and zany and over the top and funny, and it's like everything's just big and loud. So it just depends. But like I said, it's just that there's a lot to do for gaming sessions in comparison to just about everything else, because it's so planned and sort of rigid.
Well, I got one more question, but I feel like I've been monopolizing the conversation. Zach, you got anything you want to add in?
Yeah, I mean, so when you do a character like Captain America, or I guess to a certain extent Sonic, and you're doing so many different versions of it, like you're an animation here, a Lego game here, or whatever, are you on retainer for that kind of, like, that character? Or
wish.
Or are they calling you? Like, I can't imagine you're auditioning every time to be Captain America.
No, but you would be surprised. I mean, there are times where, depending upon, because these are licensed characters, there's a lot of times where it might be there's a new entity that's going to take the product of the licensed character and want to do something a little different with it. And so that being the case, if they're working with a different production company, or if it hasn't been stipulated by the licensee, the licensor, I guess, I think what happened with Wreck-It Ralph is that Disney obtained the rights to use Sonic the Hedgehog in one of their films, and Sega stipulated, well, you've got to go with our voice actor, so that we retain the sort of throughput of the consistency of this character as they know it now. This is our voice actor.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, so I think they do that a lot. So there's been times where I've auditioned for Captain America for things that I wasn't involved in, and they went a different direction on some other thing, and you just go, all right, there it is. Look at Batman. We're looking at how many different versions of Batman have we seen, and so it's the same thing. I've auditioned for tons of different Batmans that have come and gone and that I didn't get. So it's not all that uncommon, but it just depends. I mean, the nice thing about being a part of something as iconic and large as a character or a franchise that people know is that sometimes you can get in, and if it ain't broke, they don't want to fix it. So it's kind of nice to say, all right, well, I feel pretty good about this for a while, and hopefully they'll kind of keep calling me in to do stuff like that.
For the record, if I could just toot your horn a little bit, you're my favorite Batman voice.
Thank you. Toot away, sir.
Yes,
that sounds weird, but no, thank you. That's talk about honor and just insane. Like, man, oh man, I can't believe that lightning has struck as many times as it has. Usually, an inevitable question is somebody says, is there a character out there that you've always wanted to play, that you'd love to play someday? And I just laugh and I go, I've done it. I mean, I've done it so many times too, like way more than I could have ever imagined. I mean, the idea of getting to do something like Chris Redfield or Ezio or something like that, and then you get to go do other things that are also sort of have been done before, and then to just think of, I'm sorry, but in the DC and the Marvel universe, it's like, for me, like Batman and Captain America is just insane. So thank you.
Yes,
there are many people who would probably disagree with you, but it's always been an honor to be voicing Batman in any way. So
it's
thanks.
an almost constant debate with me and my friend Jeremy. So
yeah. What? And I get it. That's the benefit of like maybe something like Ezio versus taking on a role like Sonic or Captain America or anything that's sort of iconic and has already been done. If there's other versions, then the nice part is nobody gets to come up to me at a convention and go, yeah, it's cool and all, but you're not really my Ezio. It's like I don't have to be on the receiving end of that, because I've had people just like to your face go, hey, I think you're a nice guy and you're funny, but you're not my Batman.
That's so
I'm like, okay, thank you. And who do I make this out to? It's like, wow, we're very forward, aren't we?
Yeah, that's a bizarre greeting.
It happens all the time. But with that, Sonic, not so much with Captain America, which is kind of funny, but I think with Batman, and how do you argue with this? I mean, Kevin Conroy has established that character in the animated sense and in the video game sense for over 20 years. And it's no different like with Mark Hamill and that kind of thing. That's why Troy and I knew when we were getting this chance that it was just like, okay, this is going to have a lot of eyeballs and ears on it, and it can go a million different ways. But boy, oh boy, I would hate to go to my grave thinking, because I was too afraid to find out how fans would receive it, that I didn't give it a shot. But both of us knew, like, man, we have no idea how this is going to go when it comes out, and people could either be irate, and we would understand it because we both grew up, with Kevin and Mark as Batman and the Joker. So it's so I get it. So when people have the debates, I don't really, it doesn't hurt my feelings, and I get it, because I will sit there and say, like, of course, and Kevin Conroy is my Batman. That's who we grew up listening to. So I get it.
Well, you mentioned that a lot of people always ask you, what's that one role you wish you had? I'm gonna go the opposite way. What's the one role that I'm gonna find on IMDb that you wish I didn't find? That you're
I can tell you right now, Kim DeJohn, of 7 Homes and 2 Moms, or something like that, or 7 Moms and 2 Homes. So the story behind that is there's a game called Castle Shikigami 2, and it was the very first video game that I was ever in. And I got a call from a little studio down in Tustin, California at like 4:30 on a Friday, and it was the engineer, and he was like, dude, do you think you can come down here? I was like, what's up? And he's like, are you available? I was like, yeah, what's going on? He's like, we're trying to finish a video game, and we need an actor. And I was like, okay, yeah. He's like, yeah, get down here. I'm like, all right, I'll be there in like 30 minutes. So I hop in the car, and I drive down there, and it was just the engineer and myself. And it was a script that I think had gone through 3 different languages before it was translated into English and got to us. And he was just like, he was like, we had no context for anything. It was just straight dialogue. So we had no clue why we were saying what we were saying or what we were saying. And there was this one word, might, with an exclamation mark that just kept popping up. And so we were sitting there going like, I guess it's like a battle cry, like might. And I've told this story before, but it was just essentially what we found out at the very end of this entire script was that Might was the name of another character. So it was the equivalent of me just like yelling Larry, over and over again for no reason, like triumphant, like exactly like Larry, Gordon, Mortimer, and that performance is on audioatrocities.com. So which is this website devoted to horrible voice acting in video games and animation, I guess. And so literally I get to like click on like wave files from audioatrocities.com on Castle Shikigami 2. So that's the one I would take back, but not really. I love the fact that it made it out there because it is horrific, because it was just an engineer and I going, I don't know. And literally the lines are like, I am Kim DeJohn of 7 homes and 6 moms. And you're like, what do we think they're trying to say there? We don't really know. And then just randomly he'd say like, life means pain. Why? And so
that's deep.
You just see words like that and you go, act. You're like, all right, I'll just act this out. So it's just bad acting, bad deliveries, horrific writing. And so I guess on one level I should probably ask to take that back. But then there's a part of me that's like, no, I love that I made it on audioatrocities.com.
Is it your only trip to Audio Atrocities?
I hope so. Gosh, I hope so. But now I'm sure there'll be people that be like sifting through trying to find something to throw it up on there.
It just seems like
I can see that.
Seems like if you're looking to self-inflict some wounds, that's where a voice actor would go.
That's true. Yeah. Actually, that's what I should start doing, is just taking like Sissy's files and just starting throwing them up on there and just being like, oh, here's these horrible performances. Even though she's winning awards for it, I think it's an atrocity and more work for me. There you go.
Yeah, I would love to hear you as Delilah in Firewatch. That would be tremendous.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Hey, there's a fire going on out here. This is Delilah. You stay safe out there.
I kind of want to play that game now.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, do you hear me? Come in. Hey. Well, ever since the divorce, I sure have been lonely up here. My name's Delilah. Is the smoke getting bad out there?
I'm falling in love all over again.
Well, with a sexy voice like that for Delilah, right?
Delilah! I hear fire burns.
I can't read this copy. I'm laughing too hard.
That is true. Fire does burn. Science checks out.
And it makes smoke when the stuff catches on fire. So over and out. 10-4, good buddy. Delilah out.
Ooh, good buddy. I just got friends.
And then I would also make the little click sound that every time, just to,
That's good. Well,
See, this is
indie game.
The industry's missing out. Thank you. They're missing out on hiring me for these things.
And great Foley work, it turns out.
Right.
I had no idea.
Thank you very much. I'm a one-stop shop. DaVita nurse dialysis videos knew it.
Here we go.
Yeah, exactly. We are on our way. Perhaps you've heard of dialysis training? Yes, well.
I'm going to totally Google that as soon as we're done recording. I'm going to go see the dialysis video on YouTube.
I wonder if it's out there. It would be hilarious if it was. I guarantee you it would never survive on YouTube because the guy's using so many licensed film, so much licensed film footage that I'm sure all these people, it would get flagged in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm. Still, I want to see
the
it.
voice of dialysis.
It's worth a search. Yeah, exactly.
So I know you said you're not doing video games as much anymore. Are you completely done? You think you're going to ever dip back into it at all, or?
No, there might be some things that are coming out in 2019 that I can't talk about.
Oh my god. Justice League game confirmed.
There's what is this now? What did I confirm?
Justice League game. You finally confirmed all the rumors.
Exactly. Yeah, sure. Yeah. No, there might be. It's really kind of come down to, I've been very, very fortunate in having a very busy schedule. So, today, this Monday, it was 7 a.m. for RAM, followed by a 9:30 booking for an animated series over at Cartoon Network, and then I walked down the hall to the second booth for another animated series there, came back home to Chatsworth, recorded for, I don't know if they've announced. No, I think they have. For World of Dance on NBC,
okay.
And which they're in production, and then cranked out some auditions, went back down to record for Unikitty, then went back to Cartoon Network to record for another series there, and then come back home for this, and when we're done, I'm sure I'll have some auditions of things that I got to get done for the next day. So that's a busy day. That's a careful what you wish for day,
right?
And it's not typical, but I am 5 days a week, usually multiple sessions a day, and because of the retail clients and promo clients and that kind of thing, the idea of going and spending 8 hours in a ping pong suit on a soundstage for a video game, it creates a problem where I very likely might even lose money as a result of taking that on. So it's rare that we've been finding ourselves saying we would love to be able to go out for that, but we probably shouldn't. And yet I've been working with my agent to say I really, really, really would like to try something different, and maybe a little something to kind of like, spread our wings a little bit here and kind of surprise some folks. But sadly, my biggest critique of a lot of writing in games is that there's a lot of stuff that's just sort of like, oh, this has been done.
Mm-hmm.
This has been done before. And so when it comes through, I'll call up my agent. I go, I don't know. I'll give it a shot, but I don't feel like we're not doing anything new here or anything all that different or unique. And, it's like I've heard this character before in a different way. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. Whereas in the animated world, animation is it's so free because it doesn't have it's just pure imagination with a smaller budget. And so I've found a lot more like creative writing and a lot more enjoyable writing in animation. So we sort of focused there. But that being said, there will be some games and stuff they already announced Team Sonic Racing. That was supposed to come out last month. And it got pushed to I think May of 2019. And we've recorded for that. So that is coming out, and then there's the potential for something that might be getting announced fairly soon. I don't know.
Maybe like Thursday or something.
Who knows? Is that when Justice League is supposedly being announced? Are you trying to?
No.
I can tell you, I'm not in Justice League.
Oh
so.
no, it's that's just the Game Awards are Thursday. So.
Oh, is it? Okay, gotcha. Yeah, no,
I'm not trying. I'm not trying to make you confess to whatever you're working on.
Well, whatever it is that I am in, everybody dies in the end. So
those are my
spoiler alerts.
Favorite kinds of stories.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody dies. It's pure annihilation. No, it's funny because they often don't tell us. It got to be a sticking point with negotiations for things where sometimes people would get booked on a game, they'd show up for the game, and the game had content that they weren't comfortable participating in or delivering, and suddenly you as an actor are feeling like, oh no, I shouldn't walk away from something. That's not professional, but I don't agree with what they're saying here, or this is, I don't like this message that's being sent. So they're trying to be a little bit more clear with that, but I also understand when they don't tell us when they're going to announce games or that kind of thing, because, actors make mistakes, and, you see me kind of going, can I talk about that? Was that announced?
Right.
Or, am I allowed to mention that this is going on? So there's a lot of that we have to be cognizant of, so they tend to not tell us, and they just all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, here it is, it's launching.
Are they
like, oh,
they being more transparent with what you're working on? Because I remember, from the outside looking in, the only ones I really remember is like Ray Chase didn't know he was in a Final Fantasy game until it came out or whatever.
It happens all the time.
That's crazy.
It happens all the time.
Is it?
Yeah, and
is it getting
the content is where it gets ugly?
Okay, like if it's a mature rated,
absolutely
thing by surprise.
Yeah, exactly. And there's been things. There was an audition that came through that I laughed, and I just called my agent. I was like, did you read this thing that you sent to me? And it was like, it started off with just a really, really horrific situation that my character was basically doing to the player. And in a church on the, and it's like they were just trying to be shocking for the sake of being shocking. And I just remember calling my agent. I was like, dude, this is just cheap. This is low hanging fruit. This is the comedy of like Andrew Dice Clay in the 80s, where it's like, it's so shocking to say all these naughty like nursery rhymes. And yet I just, the point I'm trying to make with that and with my agent was saying, you can only go there so many times before people aren't shocked anymore. And it's like, so why bother doing that? Be a little more creative. Like, find a better way to do this. Like, find the same content or the same message that you want to send, but do it in a little different way. Because this is cheap. I can tell you from a screenwriting background, that's just cheap. That's so edgy and but I was like, no, let's not do this. But it's like that stuff is out there, and thankfully that was an audition, and we could see what we were, getting ourselves into. But often we go out and we audition for things, and the lines are just, hey, help me over here. Hey, I needed that. Who do you think you are? Like, they want to see an emotional range that you can deliver, and then all of a sudden you get the copy, and it's like, oh, I'm Hitler. It's like, oh no, I didn't realize I was Hitler. Okay, I don't want to be Hitler in a game. It's like that kind of thing.
Wow.
I'm not Hitler in the Justice League, if that's what you're asking too.
I'm so sorry I referenced the Justice League, Roger. I'm so
Hitler confirmed. Hitler confirmed at the Game Awards via Roger Craig Smith in the Justice League. Hitler is a playable character in the Justice League game.
He's in Roger Craig Smith, Justice League game, Avengers game, Wolfenstein 3 as Adolf Hitler.
Hashtag Roger Craig Smith is in fact Hitler.
Yes,
Here it is.
That's what I was trying to
It's
get
happening.
to.
Yeah, there's your hashtag, Scott.
You heard it here
right.
first. The Gaming
Please
Outsider.
don't do that. Please don't have that be my hashtag.
Well, Roger, it's been awesome talking to you about what you've been doing. We've got some more show to do. We'd love to have you stick around, but I know you've had a long day. Are you okay to stick around, or?
I'm sticking around.
Oh,
What are we talking? 3 hours tops? 4 hours tops?
We usually cap out at 2, but we don't normally have an interview at the beginning, so it might be a little past what is that gonna be, like 8 o'clock your time? So
We do need to go through like a range of grunts at the end. But.
Okay, good. Yeah, exactly. We have to save those to the end. No, I'll stick around. I'm fine. I'll stick around. If I get hungry, I'm gonna go down and cook some food, and I'll sign off at that time as soon as I feel like I'm not interrupting enough and throwing you guys off track.
it's all good. Keep doing that, man. We love it.
There you go.
So
that's my job.
Well, before we get into the week's news, I do want to mention we've got a couple other interviews posting. We had some
guys. I don't feel like
content.
doing the week's news. If we could just go on to everybody's favorite egg salad recipe, I feel like that'd be a better use of our time here.
The secret is cilantro.
Egg salad. Zach, go.
Cilantro.
Sweet
I don't know.
relish.
Cilantro. Okay, Chris.
Sweet relish.
Cilantro and the egg salad. No.
No, sweet relish.
Cool.
Okay.
Guys, it's been great. Thanks very much. You guys take care. Have a good one. I'm out.
Great.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you all the man, the myth, the Duke, legendary voice actor, Mr. Jon St. John. How are you doing this evening, sir?
Wow, talk about blowing smoke up my ass. What an introduction.
We aim to please, man. We aim to please.
All of a sudden, I'm legendary. Okay, I'll take it for whatever that's worth.
Hey,
Hi, guys.
How's it going?
It's going good. Hey, I'm here on the Gaming Outsider. What else could I need besides that shot of tequila I just took? Nothing, so I'm good to go.
I should have brought some
Perfect.
tequila. I should have brought that, yeah.
Well, it's not
gotta
for
steal
everybody. I mean, is it your thing? Do you like shots of tequila?
I'm not a tequila guy. I'm more of a whiskey guy myself.
Yeah. I would be if I weren't diabetic. That's why I only drink tequila. I have type 2 diabetes. Did you already know that, or?
I did not.
I had heard that.
Oh, okay. People love to talk about my abuse of tequila when I'm at convention appearances, but the reason is I do have type 2 diabetes, but I can drink tequila because the agave doesn't have the sugars, et cetera, et cetera. You know, but I can't drink grain or like potato stuff like vodka. Can't have it. Too much sugar.
Really?
I don't even think
But,
of vodka as having sugar. That's interesting.
Yeah, but on the upside, see, I never have a hangover ever.
It must be nice.
Go ahead and hate me right now. Go ahead, it's fine.
I
I'm
do a
I'm
little
good with
bit
it.
because as I get older, man, the hangovers just make it not worth it. So I'm insanely jealous of that right now.
Just remember, don't mix liquors. You know, I mean, if you're having Fireball, don't have beer too. If you're having beer, don't have chasers. You know, pick one thing. You know,
Yeah.
you're better off.
That's a good
And if you're
call.
going to drink a lot of beer, drink Tecate. It has the lowest amount of sugar. Why are we talking about how to avoid a hangover while drinking? I'm sorry. Did I get distracted?
Maybe a
It
little.
happens. It happens.
It seems like a regular topic among my conversations. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's all right.
It's fine.
I'm gonna pass things off to Chris because he's actually the one that contacted you, and he's very excited to talk with you. So I'm gonna pass the first question off to him. Go ahead, Chris.
All right. So, John, after talking with like all of our listeners and followers, I mean, there's like one big burning question that's been on everybody's mind.
How hot is it burning?
Pretty hot.
Okay.
You
let's
lent your
hear it.
voice to one of the most recognizable characters in video game history. So everyone is dying to know, what does it feel like to be the voice of Big the Cat?
Oh, dude, come on. Really? You're going to go there.
We were
Actually,
talking about it before, so I was like, I have to do this.
God, thank you so much for bringing up that sore spot. But, you know, really, I don't hate the character Big the Cat. I just hate the voice I did for Big the Cat. And they made me keep doing it through several games. And, you know, it was just terrible. It was just terrible. I didn't even audition for that game, you know?
Really?
How'd that
Yeah,
happen?
the casting director was Lonnie Manella, who lives out here in San Diego, where I do. And she's actually the one who first discovered me as a voice actor for video games and got me the Duke Nukem job, right?
Oh.
So we're a couple of 3 years into my video game voice acting career when she calls me one, I don't know, Thursday afternoon and says, hey, are you familiar with Sonic the Hedgehog? I went, yeah. She said, well, they've got some games that are doing pretty well, and they want to cast, you know, for a new game. And I want you to be in it. I said, okay, what part? She goes, I don't know, but we'll see you. The recording is on Saturday. Just show up. And I went, but what about the audition? She goes, don't worry about it. We've worked together long enough. I know what you can do. So I show up on this Saturday and everybody else is cast. And I'm just out in the hallway waiting my turn to go in and record. And when I go in, they show me a picture of Big the Cat. And I was not impressed by the character's physique, but I looked at it as a cute kind of character. And I said, okay, so what's the deal? What should it sound like a cat? She goes, no, a human voice, but let's just say he's kind of slow. And I said, what do you mean slow? She said, you know what I mean? Don't make me have to say the word. The would. Okay, fine. I think I know. So I just started talking in kind of a stupid voice like this, like, where's my froggy? I can't seem to find my froggy. And I guess the director on the other end of the line was listening, unbeknownst to me, and said, okay, that'll be the voice. And I'm like, oh, no, come on, I can do something else. No, we like that one. Very good voice. We like that. So I'm sorry. I'm not trying to stay away from racism, John, for God's sake. So, no, that's pretty much how it happened. They forced me to keep doing that same voice right there. So, Froggy, you don't look so good, little buddy. And that's what I ended up doing. Just a few years back, though, they recast. Well, Sega, they kept recasting Sonic games and TV shows and stuff over and over and over again. It's like they never get the same cast. But they passed along the voice of Big the Cat to my friend Kyle Hebert. I don't know if you know who Kyle is, but he's quite from Dragon Ball Z. He's very popular.
Ah, there you go. Okay.
And so I passed along the torch to him at a convention by handing him my big my big stuffed fluffy Big the Cat thing that had been collecting dust in my studio for like 10 years. And then I guess he did such a great job that Sega killed the character off. Seriously, nothing against Kyle. I love him. The voice he did was fine. But just coincidence? I think not. About a year after they gave him the voice, they killed the character off. And they said, okay, we're done with Big the Cat.
So was
and
that
that's the story of Big the Cat, ladies and gentlemen.
That's an amazing story. I love it. Well, I want to ask you a little bit about your history in voice acting. You touched on it a little bit, but specifically because we know that the 90s was a completely different world in terms of vocal talent in video games. So can you tell us that process that led you to landing the role of Duke Nukem and then beyond? Oh, sure. Well, how it started was, I've lived all over the country. I've seen America on the radio plan because I was a, radio DJ, morning show guy, and production director for different companies all over the country. And I eventually landed here in San Diego back in 1990. And in 94, that voice actress, casting director I mentioned earlier, Lonnie Manella, ended up in the studio at the radio station where I worked because I was producing some ads for a car dealer here in San Diego, and they had hired her to be the voice. So she shows up in my studio one afternoon. We're recording. She keeps doing all these crazy, wacky voices warming up. And I went, wow, that's really good. I said, I do a few voices too. And then I kind of showing off like, attention whores like me do. I start, doing all these different voices. And she said, wow, that's impressive. You've got good range. Have you ever considered acting in video games? And this is 1994, you guys. Right. I went, acting in video games? What are you talking about? She said, well, they're starting to do, dialogue in video games. I said, I had no idea. So what do you got? And the very first thing she handed to me was an audition for Duke Nukem. And the first time I heard the words Duke Nukem, I don't know about you guys, but I laughed out loud. Did you? Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. So I chuckled at it and said, yeah, sure. I don't care. It pays cash money. Fine. I'll audition. And I didn't know who George Broussard was from Adam, but I'm hooked up on a phone line with George Broussard out of Garland, Texas on one Saturday afternoon there at the radio station in the studio. And he and Lonnie are, in my headphones saying, okay, we need a voice for this character. And they show me artwork for Duke Nukem, but it was just a head, no body, just what they thought his head looked like with the flat top haircut and the sunglasses. Yeah. And I think George Broussard's original thought behind it was a voice similar to Charles Bronson. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. And I went, oh, Charles Bronson. And Lonnie goes, no, not Charles. No, think more like Clint Eastwood as Dirty Harry. And I went, oh, okay. Go ahead, punk. Make my day. And George went, yeah, I like that tonality, but Lonnie, show him some more artwork. And they show me another picture where you see Duke and his, his big damn guns, and he's ripped and all that, right? Yeah. And so George goes, well, obviously, this guy's on steroids, so think of Dirty Harry on steroids. And I went, okay, well, I'll just lower the pitch and do the same thing.
So do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? Go ahead, make my day. Come get some. Hail to the king, baby. And right there, George went, okay, that's it. You got the job. And that's how that all started.
Oh, that's just amazing.
Fantastic story. I love it.
You know, the silliest thing about it is like the second game that I auditioned and did, and I am all the male character voices except one in this game, the Candyland Adventure.
Really?
Right? Yeah. So Duke Nukem 3D to the Candyland Adventure was the second game I did.
That's fantastic. What was what was your voice like on that? I mean, I think Candyland. I think, ha ha.
Oh yeah, well there are a bunch of voices in that one. Lord Licorice, who's the bad guy. Oh, the ice cream sea, I see. You'll never get past me, cookie boy. You know, he'd speak like that. And then Gloppy, which is I think he's the molasses moat. And he talks kind of like this, because he's kind of fluid and shit. Oh, sorry, because he's a moat made of caramel or something. And then Jolly, who's just happy to be there. So Jolly, you know, it's just a bunch of silly damn voices, but I did all of those. And because the Hasbro, no, it wasn't Hasbro. They were the inventor of the game. I can't remember who the producer was for that video game, but they were really impressed and passed my name on to this guy at 989 Software, which was Sony Interactive eventually, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And so this guy hires me to do all the voices for Twisted Metal game, which was, I think it was Twisted Metal 4. So I ended up playing all the parts in that game too. And that's where my cred really started. And I started booking just lots of video games after that. And I've done, I don't know, somewhere between 180 and 200 now, I think.
Yeah, it's
something
fantastic.
Like that. That's not a huge amount when you think of people like Lonnie Manella or Steve Bloom, you know, who are so prolific. They've done so many games, but that's because that's what they have to do to make a living. I make my living most of the time doing commercial work. That's my forte. I know that sounds boring as shit, doesn't it?
No, not at all.
Oh, you're right. Commercials, great. Whatever.
It really doesn't. I've actually been wanting to get into voice acting for a long time. I've never really actually made a full attempt at it. And everybody tells me you got to start in commercials. You got to get your name out there and offer to do some commercials for people. So yeah, no shame in that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know why? Because commercials are the most plentiful work out there for a voice actor. I do, a couple or three video games a year, probably on average, but I do hundreds of commercials every year. And that's how I pay the rent and, pay for the car and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. What do you do, outside of work? I mean, what do you do for fun?
Oh, well, the most fun that I have is producing music. As a matter of fact, I was mixing down some tracks just before we hooked up. Right now, I'm producing an album for a geek rock band based out of San Diego. They're called Random Gibberish. And they, from time to time, appear at conventions with me, and we all get to perform together. I usually play drums and I sing for them. But I'm producing their zombie opera right now.
That sounds fascinating.
It's a pretty good piece of work. I've done 2 other albums for them, and I'm also producing a jazz band, a local jazz band called Velvet Sushi. And that's what I'm most passionate about, really, is performing live music or just being here in my studio and mixing tracks and making, polishing that diamond that in the rough into something, it's not always garbage in, garbage out. You can take garbage in, and if you produce it just right, you can make it pretty good. So I have a lot of time, or I should say I'll have a lot of fun spending my time producing music. That's my most passionate endeavor.
That's really interesting.
So, I mean, after everything that you've worked on over the years, I mean, you must have some pretty amazing stories to tell working in the business. I mean, do you have a favorite memory of things that happened while you were recording or?
Oh, well, I have a very painful, my most memorable memory of a recording session was, I believe it was during a session. No, I know, because my ex-wife was there at the time. It was a game called Maken X for Sega. And I think it was on the Sega Dreamcast. I'm not sure. But anyway, this anime-looking battle game called... Okay, it was just a terrible game, all in all. But here's what happened. We're doing Maken X, and I had some dental work done, about a week and a half before this session. And so I was getting bridge and crowns. You know what that is, or
sure? Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, apparently, when the procedure was done, the dental hygienist who was gluing the thing into place after the main dentist had done his job, failed to remove a flake of enamel from on top of my gums. tears, right? When they glued the thing in place.
Ugh.
So over the week and a half, I'm popping Vicodins like candy because I keep having jaw pain, which the dentist says, oh, no, it's normal to have pain like this after a procedure like this, right? Because you'd had an extraction and we put in these two things and blah, 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 yada, yada. Well, I'm doing this session and the pain becomes so intense during the recording. The director and my then wife and some other people are looking at me and there's just tears streaming down my face. And they went, are you okay? What's the matter? And I stopped, and I said, I'm just in an extreme amount of pain right now. I'm having a dental emergency. Please, can we finish? And they went, oh, my God. Yeah, there's only 3 lines. Get them done. I record those 3 lines, and I went in the lobby of the recording studio and collapsed on the floor. And my then wife comes out and says, oh, my God, what is going on? I said, I don't know, but I can't take the pain anymore. We have to leave. I got to get my so she calls my dentist, who's at a Padres game at the newly opened Petco Park here in San Diego, right? And this is like 9 o'clock at night. And he said, I'll meet you in my office in Del Mar in 15 minutes. And God bless him. If he didn't leave that game right there and the Padres were leading, it was like in the 6th inning, right?
Yeah.
He left immediately, got on the freeway, drove up to his office in Del Mar, met me there. And I have never in my life up until that moment said, please stick that needle in my gums.
And so he gave me a shot of
Novocaine in the gums and it immediately stopped the pain and the tears stopped. And then he did a little, cleanup and fixed it all up, and I was fine after that. But that was during the recording session for a game, and it was the most painful thing I've ever dealt with. I mean, dental pain sucks.
Oh, totally. So did that pain come through in your voice in that game? Because I'm not familiar with that game at all.
I can't even remember what my character was or what my lines were in that game. I have no clue at all. I was blocking everything out except getting the lines done because I was in so much pain. I just wanted it to be over.
That's a
and I have a copy of the game, but I don't have a Sega Dreamcast to play it on. So it's still in the shrink wrap. It's never been opened.
Oh wow!
I've got a lot of unopened games around here.
Hey, that sounds like Chris. Actually, he's got a lot of unopened games as well. But
but yours are unwrapped because you're nerdy and you're trying to keep the value, right? Mine are unwrapped because I just don't give a shit. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Well, that reaction is going to make this next question seem weird, but I want to ask you if you have a favorite game to record, whether it be in the Duke series or outside of it.
Oh, without a doubt. Well, 2 favorites. I love doing Duke Nukem Forever. That was fun because I just got to direct myself. It was the easiest game I've ever done because I got to just record on my own and send them files as I went. But the most enjoyable recording experience and funny as hell was doing the full clip edition for Bulletstorm, where they replaced Steve Bloom's character Grayson with Duke Nukem.
Mm-hmm.
That was just the year before last.
For the remaster.
And the beauty of that was that the folks at Gearbox, they really do, honest to God, treat me like family. So they flew me out to Dallas first class. They put me up in a 5-star hotel, and I would record for a week at a time, like Monday through Friday, 4 or 6 hours a day. They paid me what I asked for, which is, dude, that shit never happens. And I had to go out there 4 weeks, over the course of 2 months. I went out there for 4 weeks and they limoed me around and they took me out to dinners and they got drunk with me every night and we did karaoke. And it was like a party for a week, and then a week off and then a week back in Dallas and then a week off, Wow, what a way to live. And so the lines also that I was replacing for the Grayson character were funny as hell. And funnier still was the fact that they couldn't hire all of the actors who interacted with Grayson in the game to recut their lines. That would have been really cost prohibitive, especially considering what I charged them for it. So what they did was they wrote Duke's script in such a way that when a character would go, well, Gray, what do you think? I'd go, why are you calling me that, damn it? I'm not that old. What are you talking about, Gray? I mean, there are lines like that in the game. And I thought they were funny as hell. And then having to record some of the lines that Steve Bloom did, I couldn't get through them. I laughed so hard that, I got soda coming out of my nose during the session. And it was quite a challenge just because it was so funny. We'd have to stop and think dead babies, dead babies, dead babies for like 5 minutes, just to get the funny out.
Right.
It was hilarious recording that. And like I said, so enjoyable because they really treated me like family.
Oh, that's awesome.
Did you get to say dick tits then?
Oh yeah, I did.
That's like the best. line
What's
of
your
my game.
problem, dick tits? Oh yeah. I think the trickiest part about that was, it was kind of like looping. It was dialogue replacement, and Grayson, Steve Bloom's character, spoke very quickly. Duke never speaks quickly because he's speaking with such, intensity, right?
Right.
So having to talk fast like Duke like this is kind of ridiculous, you know what I'm saying? See, it's that kind of thing that just made us laugh and giggle. It's like, oh, dude, this is ridiculous. Duke doesn't speak like that. So it's like during the session, we're having to edit the script live on the fly every day because Duke wouldn't say that. Are you kidding?
Oh, that's just insane.
You're making me want to go back and replay Bulletstorm again.
I'm probably gonna play as soon as I get done.
Well, why not? I mean, come on.
You mentioned Duke Nukem Forever there, John, and you said that you got to kind of record that from home.
Yeah.
What we were kind of curious is because that whole game was kind of a mess in terms of development. Like it was,
it was
passed between developer and this. So that didn't really affect you too much. You just got to do whatever you wanted at home, and that didn't affect you at all?
Dude, I didn't even know they were making that game. I'd never heard of Duke Nukem Forever until 3 months before it was released.
Are you serious?
Really? I'm a voice actor. Come on. Now they have all these NDAs, these non-disclosure agreements we got to sign. But come on, really. Every voice actor you've ever spoken with probably just runs at the mouth like I'm doing right now. So do you really think these game developers are going to trust somebody like me not to say anything? So they keep us in the dark until, and the voiceover is pretty much the last thing you do, when you're developing a game. It's the last component to go into place, I should say, before beta testing is done and all that. And so, yeah, they didn't have to tell me anything until 3 months before it was time. And the way that happened was one day I'm in my studio, in a break between recording some auditions or some car commercials or whatever. And the phone rings and I pick it up and I went, Jon St. John Productions. And the woman at the other end goes, guess what? It's a cold day in hell. I said, I beg your pardon? She goes, John, you don't know who this is? I said, no. She said, it's Kristen Hagelin from Triptych Games. I'm calling from Dallas. I said, okay, why are you calling? And why is it a cold day in hell? She said, because on your website, my old website, you have the Duke Nukem Forever logo along with all the other video game credits. And it says maybe some cold day in hell. I went, no, you're going to make the game? She goes, we've already made it. Now we need the voiceover. And I was thrilled.
Oh.
So,
They had some of the best lines.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And all, by the way, if you guys didn't already know this, all the lines in Duke Nukem Forever, all the original stuff that's not ripped off from, Roddy Piper or Bruce Campbell, right? Or from Pulp Fiction. All those new lines that are naughty and stuff, all written by 2 women.
Really?
Really?
Including one of my favorites, the line that goes, I had eggs for breakfast. Your mom had sausage. Written by chicks, man. Well, I shouldn't say chicks. They're more like MILFs. Well, I shouldn't even say that because it's inappropriate. I should say adult women.
That's fantastic. I did not know that. I learned something today.
Mm-hmm.
I learned something today.
You've been schooled, motherfucker. Sorry, I couldn't help it. I had to get one F-bomb in there somewhere.
That's all right.
I want to know, what's the futures? Are there any, really cool, games coming up that you've done that you can talk about?
I can tell you that Duke is being injected into more games, which is pretty cool. He's in Heroes on Titan, Wildbuster. That's what it is. Heroes of Titan. That's the game. So Duke is in that game. Duke is going to be injected into other games as well. Real Player One, the Steven Spielberg movie, is coming out very soon, and Duke makes an appearance in that.
Nice.
There's no dialogue, unfortunately. The rumors about Jon Cena starring as Duke in a Duke Nukem movie are just that, rumors. The only reason that rumor ever started is because he and Michael Bay had been working together on another film, and Michael Bay did get the rights to do the Paramount Pictures production of whatever Duke Nukem movie they make. So that's happening. Other games that I'm doing, this is The Police 2, new versions coming out. Those are the only ones I can talk about that I'm not under an NDA for right now, because they're still being worked on, and I'm not supposed to, spill the beans about new games.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
But I have much bigger news than that.
Well, let's hear it.
I'm starting my own convention.
Whoa.
Okay, so if you feel so inclined, go to my Facebook page. There are 2 different pages. My Jon St. John page, which is a personal page. I can't accept any more friends because I'm maxed out on the number of friends I can have. But if you'll like the page and follow me there, you get all the updates and details. Or my fan page is Jon St. John - Duke Nukem. And I can take lots of likes there, and you can find out all about Jon St. John's NotCon at Sea, which is a 3-day cruise from Miami to the Bahamas next February. And check this out. For under $600, you can get an inner cabin. All of your meals are included. You can get a drink package that includes all of your alcohol and your badge to the convention. And it's 3 nights, so it's kind of like 4 days. It leaves Miami Friday evening at 5, and it returns to the dock Monday morning at 7, which is also President's Day. So for anybody who goes, they've got a free travel day that day. You only need to take a Thursday and Friday off to do this con, basically. And under $600 gets you everything. All of your alcohol, all of your meals. And if you upgrade your badge to like an adventure badge, I'll take you on a kayaking trip with me and John Patrick Lowry around Nassau. Me and Todd Habercorn, who's huge in the anime world, we'll be doing a snorkeling adventure with fans and friends who come along. And we're also, I think we're going to do some jet skiing around the private island that Royal Caribbean owns called Coco Cay. So what you want to do pretty much to check this out and come on vacation with me next February is go to NotCon, that's NOTCON.US. I'm producing the show, but they're doing all of the coordination and logistics for it. They did such a fabulous job last year in Dearborn, Michigan. It's owned by the same company that does YomaCon in Detroit, a very big, 20,000 plus convention. They had the smaller one in Dearborn called Midwest Media Expo. And just 3 days before that con, the hotel ripped up the contract because they had been bought by a Chinese company and they didn't communicate well and they didn't want a convention in their hotel. I mean, after this contract had been, written a year earlier, right? But this amazing company run by a lady named Vernita, NotCon, they made a successful convention happen in 36 hours, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah, that's super impressive.
And when they managed to pull that off, and I went as a guest, as I had been scheduled to do anyway, I said, screw it, I'm going to go anyway and go have some fun. Me and David Eddings, who's Claptrap in Borderlands, he came out.
Oh, great.
Brian Massey came out. And we all just said, well, what the heck? We don't care if the convention's canceled. You bought our tickets to fly there. We're going to fly there anyway and drink in the hotel. And so they made this convention happen in 36 hours. So they're the ones I've teamed up with, because I know they know their stuff. And Vernita, she actually runs other conventions on her own pretty much. So I've enlisted their help. They've got just a fantastic website put together and a great package that we got for Royal Caribbean. And it's a chance for fans, Duke Nukem fans, and fans of GLaDOS from Portal. Are you familiar with GLaDOS?
Way.
Oh, yeah, Ellen McLean, she's coming. So is John Patrick Lowry, her husband. And as I mentioned, Todd Habercorn, they're friends of mine. So they're guests who have agreed to come along and do these adventures with us. I mean, one of the things is going to be like a laser tag tournament on board with GLaDOS narrating.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Isn't that just crazy? So these are the kind of things we're going to be doing in addition to all the other stuff you can do on the ship and on shore. The rock climbing wall. We've got a beautiful theater to use. There's an ice skating rink. There's shopping. I mean, just everything that you could want to do. Jet skiing and parasailing and snorkeling and beach barbecues and all that stuff. I mean, this is a convention on steroids. How we're actually billing it is where convention meets vacation.
That sounds amazing. That's my kind of vacation.
So spread the word and come along if you want to. Hey, you have until October 31st to save your money and pay it in full, and $100 holds your room right now.
Fantastic. We will definitely put that link in the show notes as well, and we'll actually make a post on it on our website and on our Facebook as well.
You guys totally rock.
Yeah. Whatever we can do to help, man.
Hey,
You're
thanks
awesome.
for letting me pitch that. And it's about time. I probably can do one more question because I'm so long-winded. I'm sorry. I cut it.
No, that's okay. I've got one last question for you because I promised Zach, our senior editor, that I would ask you this question. He told us that there's a rumor floating around that you carry around 2 brass balls in your pocket. Is there any truth to that?
Well, they're not brass. They're not brass. You know those Chinese, I don't want to say Benoit balls. Wait, that's a sexual thing. Shut up. No, those chiming little silver balls that, they come in that little Asian case. And yeah, you've seen those, right? Yeah, I keep those in my pocket. So when I'm signing autographs at a convention, somebody goes, "Do you really have balls of steel?" I reach down like I'm, in my pants. I go, "Yeah," and I hold them up and, "Here, fondle my balls." I hand them to people, especially girls, when they come up to the table for an autograph. I go, "Here, hold my balls," and they're always happy to.
That's
fantastic. It's amazing.
I love it.
Now, you know what's more fantastic than that is the number of women who've wanted me to autograph their breasts. That's fantastic. God, I love America.
As do we, John.
And boobs.
Same here. Big fan.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I mean, this has been an absolute treat. And I can't wait to run into you at, up in Milwaukee because I'm going to be up there for 2 days. So
fantastic, dude! Will you drink some shots of tequila with me? I always buy.
I will be more than happy. We're going to be there all Friday night and pretty much all of Saturday. So
fantastic. Let's plan to drink on Friday night because Saturday is not really the drinking night at a con. Everybody's got to check out the next day. Friday night, party night.
Friday night sounds perfect. John, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and thank you for taking so much of your time to talk with us.
Well, thanks for having me and letting me be so long-winded and use up all of your time.
Oh, no worries. Also, quick plug, where can our listeners follow you and your work?
Okay, Facebook, of course, as I mentioned. My website, if you want to book me for voiceovers or for a convention appearance, it's www. Notice I didn't say W. www. JonSt.audio, and my name has no H in the first, so it's JONSTJOHN, Jon St. John .audio, and that's where you can hear my stuff and you can hire me.
Thank you so much. We really had an awesome time talking with you, and this is going to be a good moment to remember for quite a long time.
And my pleasure. Have a fabulous rest of your show, guys.
You as well.
Thank you.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the Gaming Outsider voice actress Patricia Summersett, who you might know as the voice of Zelda in Breath of the Wild. How you doing, Patricia?
I'm fantastic, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing so well. I'm genuinely honored to get a chance to talk to you. As you know from the pictures that I've sent you, and anybody that listens to our podcast know, I'm a massive fan of the Legend of Zelda series, and it's so great to just be sitting here talking to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's been one of the biggest pleasures I've had in the last years is to be part of this series. So, yeah, the pleasure is mine as well.
That's awesome. When we did a little research just to kind of get to know you a little bit, and IMDb has you listed as the voice actress. One of your first gigs was Beowulf, the video game. It was actually your first acting credit. Was video game voice actor work always your intended target, or how did that happen?
No, it wasn't. As soon as I found out that you could do it, I was riveted by it. But and actually, Beowulf was my first, let's say, AAA game that got onto IMDb. I had actually done several games before that.
Oh, okay.
And other voice gigs, radio gigs, and things like that. But yeah, that was the first time that I sort of got my big break, or what I thought was going to be my big break.
Right.
Doing a voice match for Angelina Jolie as Grendel's mother. And sorry, what was the question? The first part of that question?
Was voice actor work for video games always your intended target?
Yeah, it wasn't my intended target. My first passion was always theater. And that's what I started in school. And before that, I'd been an ice dancer. So I went from dancing to theater, and then just started to pursue voice acting on the side of that in school when I found out that I could by taking some classes, and was absolutely like, yes, this thing is definitely going to be part of my career. And I started developing demos in school and auditioning for my first little projects from there. And then, basically 10, 12 years later, something like that, that's when Zelda happened. So there was like a, big 10-year span of development from the first bit to the, from where you know me now, I guess.
Right. So what kind of productions did you do in school? You said you did plays, and I think you said high school. What kind of things did you do?
I started doing little bits of musical theater in high school, which was never my intended focus either. I was never really much of a musical theater person, but in high school it was a small pool. I hadn't done theater before, and I was like, oh, look at this, Damn Yankees in Grease. And so I auditioned for those and ended up getting, big roles in those, and thinking like, oh, I'm actually good at this. I can do this with my dance background and the fact that I've been singing since I was young. It kind of was some degree of a fit. So that's, I guess I started theater in high school and have always had a vocal component to whatever I was doing. After that, I guess any type of theater that came my way, I would do that. I did many productions in my 20s. And then I did a master's to study more in theater in my late 20s. It really was the heart and soul of what I thought I'd be doing. And still is. I still apply it to everything.
That's really cool. It's interesting you say that because with so many voice actors that I've talked to, the story I get all the time is, I started this in my 30s or 40s. This wasn't anything I planned to do, but you started at such a young age, and I think that's really cool that you prepared for it. And I find it more interesting that that's not the common story. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm flattered that you think that that's a young age, because I talk to people now at Comic-Cons and they're 15 and they know they want to be a voice actor. I didn't even know that career existed at that age. I'm not even sure it really did for, I don't know, maybe it did for like 5% of actors. And now it's, maybe more like 40 to 50% of actors do some degree of voice work somewhere, which was just not the case before.
Well, yeah, I think that it's become more of a thing probably when we were younger. I mean, I don't know if Sissy told you this story. I teach fourth grade here in Illinois.
Oh, cool.
And
cool.
One of my students on career day made a poster that said she wanted to be a voice actor. And I actually convinced Sissy to come do an interview with her at my school. And she brought Yuri and Roger Craig Smith with her as well. And
wow.
And it was really cute, especially because the girl's name is Amanda, actually came to the convention and got to meet her in person after that. And it was awesome. So I think nowadays kids definitely know that this kind of work is out there. I think more of them are leaning more towards being YouTube stars and stuff like that. But
yeah.
And if they think acting, they probably still think Hollywood before video game. But I know I don't. That's
yeah. And there's that crossover. Yeah, Hollywood and YouTube. You do hear that a lot now, which is
definitely
so fascinating.
Well, speaking of Hollywood, you're an actress across multiple mediums. I mean, can you talk a little bit about how you approach voiceover versus live action acting?
Sure, yeah. It's funny, I never really thought that I would be in this position where I do them equally, but it was a natural fit. And I think more than anything in this career, when you are just trying to make a full living, you need to diversify as much as possible. Some people do that all in voice. I'm far from that. I do a lot of live action stuff. I still do some theatrical stuff, and I have a band, and we're releasing a second album in a few months. And, I do everything that I can to keep myself as active as possible. And I say yes to most things when they come my way, because that's just the nature of the business.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not even sure how different that is from what other people. I don't know too many people that are doing exactly the mix of things that I do, but I do know some. Maybe it's more of a provincial actor thing. Like I did most of my work growing up in Montreal before moving to LA, and that maybe around here more often than not, you see more of the kind of like hybrid actors who do a bit of everything. As soon as I moved to LA, people were like, okay, you really have to focus when you're in LA. You have to either be a voice actor or a screen actor, because there's just not enough time to do both and to get traction in any of these things. So in LA, I have a voice agent, but in Canada, I'm represented in like Toronto and Montreal for all the things. So
I love how you're told that you have to focus on one thing, and you say, forget that, I'm going to do all three. I'm going to do voice work, acting, and I'm going to be in a band. Well,
it's just so funny because it's never been my experience that that's worked out for me. And I don't actually think it would, because nowadays I've followed my instincts with that. I was a physical actor first because I came from competitive ice dance, which is what I had wanted to do initially. And when that didn't work out, it was really theater, but I always loved voice, and I did want to try screen, but I didn't get better at screen until later on. So I was a bit of a late bloomer. And so by the time I have all these things kind of working together, I don't know, here I am like, in my 30s and doing all of these things. It's never made sense to cut any of them out. And now my physical background is actually useful for video games because I do a lot of motion capture, which I wouldn't do if I hadn't had, a theater background and a film background. I would just be doing voice work. And instead, that's funny enough, some of the most work that I get right now ends up being motion capture. Like it's a good chunk of the work that I do. And yeah, I'm like, it's a hybrid world. You can be hybrid and it's just as effective for certain things.
Absolutely. And for those that aren't as familiar with your work outside of Zelda, what other characters have you voiced in video games?
So the one you talked about was, I'd say, the first AAA game that I did. I've done a lot of stuff with Ubisoft. So like Ash from Rainbow Six is one of my favorite characters to have done. And I've done all the performance capture for her and all the voice work. So anything that you see in any of the iterations is me from, I don't know, 2015 onward or whatever, or 14. And what else? Let's see. Far Cry series, I've done some work for that. Deus Ex, which is Eidos, I've done work for them. Bits and pieces, worked a bit with Rooster Teeth. I'm trying to think of like, what are the other franchises? Oh, Assassin's Creed. I've done 2 Assassins in the Assassin's Creed series. And actually just last week, had a fun announcement come out. Ghost Recon Breakpoint came out, and I'm one of the characters in that, Paula Madeira, which was super fun. And that was full performance capture as well. So that was with John Bernthal and Rodney Mullen, the skateboarder. Oh my God. Best year ever working on that thing. I can't tell you how fun that particular project was. And I've got some more things on the burner as well. Some fun things that will be announced in the next couple of years, let's say.
Very cool. Very cool. We're actually going to be talking about Breakpoint on this episode. CD is from our team has been playing it quite a bit, so he's probably experienced your voice in that game if he's been playing it.
Oh, fantastic! Yay!
But with all those characters that you've talked about, I mean, I don't want to undersell it. You brought to life one of the most significant characters in gaming history for the first time. Zelda never had a voice before Breath of the Wild. How in the world do you overcome that kind of pressure playing a character that's that big for nerds like me that just are geeking out to finally hear Zelda's voice?
You go in with as much heart as you can. That's what I say, because I guess knowing that I knew it was going to be a big game. You don't know what's going to be, like, you don't know what's going to win Game of the Year awards and things like it did. I knew what it was when I got it, and I was like, what is this crazy fate that has found me in this position upon a move to LA that was a big deal for my career? I made this leap and then was weirdly rewarded with this crazy gig. I don't know. It was a lot of pressure, and it still mind boggles me how that all happened. But I think it really comes down to getting down to the work. And as an actor who's trained for many years in all the kinds of acting, I do feel like there's a similarity across the board in how you approach any of those things. Like, you approach it from character, you approach it from the script that you're given, from the background information that you're given, and then you bring it to life in the situation that you're at, where you're at on that day, and you make it as real as possible for the character. They have to be pursuing something. They have to have a reason to be there. They're a living, breathing thing. That's what you go from. You can't play the past. You can't play the history. You can be informed by the history, but you can't play it. So at some point you have to let go of that pressure and just be in the room and do the work. And that's the best thing that you can do. That's what I think. That's what I go from as an actor, I guess. That's the advice that I give people when they talk about that sort of thing.
Very cool. One of our listeners actually had a question about that as well. He wanted to know, Michael Bonovich from our community. He asked,
Hello, Michael.
He said, is it more challenging having to lead most of the dialogue since Link was mute? What's that like?
Yeah, I've been asked that question before. And it's funny because oftentimes in voice work, you don't, again, you do in motion capture, but oftentimes when you're in the room doing lines, you don't have a partner anyway that you're going to be directly talking to. You don't know what lines are coming at you. So you're often doing a series of takes that are all a little bit different, that somebody can then choose which direction they want to bring it when they're shaping it. But we also had a wonderful director, Jamie Mortellaro, in the game, who also plays Prince Sidon. Funny enough, Nintendo was like, we would like you to take this character. So he did. He was perfect for it, but he was also the director, and he would give us these wonderful line reads. He was really always interested in trying to inject it as much as possible with the immediate life and get us to react to something, because it can be challenging when you're doing dubbing work and you have a timed script and you have to follow the bars and then bring it to life, and you don't know who you're going to be talking to. But I don't know, it's sort of standard that does happen in most jobs, I would say. So I'm not necessarily sure that it was so much harder, because you always have an image of who you're talking to in your head. You make it up and you make it worthwhile when you do it.
Well, Zach could not be here on this episode or on this interview, unfortunately. He's my co-host on the show, one of my co-hosts. And this is a question that he likes to ask voice actors all the time. Is it fun recording those NPC barks? Like, do you like to have fun with them? Or, I mean, is it a quick process for an easier paycheck? And what's that like?
That's a great question. I'm sure every actor goes, ha, 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 and does a little chuckle or something like that. They can be super fun. They can be hilarious. They can also really, you got to be careful with them because they can damage your voice. It's funny. I used to do them freely and a lot more of them. And now I'm more specific about the ones that I take just to have vocal stamina when it comes to those kinds of jobs. Like I'm more strategic about when and how I do them because I've had experiences where I've had a neck spasm in the room trying to do it or...
Oh no, really?
Yeah, in the middle of a session.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, big warrior voice I was doing at one point and oh boy. Yeah, I was out for the count, but I didn't tell them. I just went home and afterwards laid on my back and then I finished the session because I was like, wow, I did that to myself. Can't say anything. Things like that can happen when you're doing hilarious barks. They're super fun. They're ridiculous. Sometimes you're burping. Sometimes you're, doing versions of 3 screams in a row, 20 different ways, I don't know, man. I would say it's not my favorite work. I like more fine work now because I've done a lot of barks by this point. But yeah, it kind of just depends. Like,
is that kind of like a pay your is that kind of like doing your dues thing to get the really good gigs?
I would say that, except that I'm still I've got a session next week where I'm going to be doing for sure some of that stuff, but it's for a game that's totally worth it. So. You just hope that it's worth it. You're just like, oh, I hope it's a good game. That's that a lot of people are going to have the chance to experience. And I think this one will. So I'm like, yeah, bring it on, man. I'll be ready.
Well, I mean, not only
in the car.
And this isn't your only gig that's using your voice too. You've got to do stage acting or movie acting and then your band on top of that too. So you've really got to protect that because that's your lifeblood right there.
Yeah, you do. You've got these little vocal folds when you're a voice actor. They're, I don't know, what the size of a penny or something like that. And, if they burst, you're, yeah, no good.
Right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come talk with me then. I promise I won't make you do any barks or anything.
Oh my God, I'm so tired already. It's horrible. Listen to this vocal fry.
Speaking of your band, I'm something of a musician myself, but just barely. I was
Yeah.
I was in a band.
All the good ones say that.
No. We've never even played in a bar or anything. We just played out of my garage for twice. But it was a lot of fun. But I couldn't forgive myself if I didn't ask you to tell us a little bit about your band because I literally did not even know you had a band until I started researching for this. And I saw Summersett and I'm like, that's Patricia right there in this band. I listened to some of it. How did that all come about? How long have you been together with your band?
Gosh, that band has been, I think, formally together with some breaks since 2012.
Oh, wow.
But it really only kind of came to fruition or was brought to fruit, let's say, in 2015 with an album, which was this big feat to make. Oh my gosh. Making an album is no joke. Boy, is it amazing and it is fun, but it's a lot of work. So after that, we took a bit of break. I moved to LA, actually, full time. So our band took a break. It came from, basically, I dated for a long time the guy who is now my co-partner, very dear friend, and collaborative creative partner. And so we still have this band together, and we play with 8. We've expanded it. It's just such a great joy. And we sing with 2 other actors, actually, who are actor-singers. They're fabulous. We have a violin, cello, bass, and drums. And yeah, everybody's super down for whatever we can do, but live gigging's tricky with 8 people and with me never being in town because I'm constantly traveling. So we focused again on making a second album. So that's what we've just done. We've been recording for the last year and a half, basically. We're finished. We're on the mastering stage and we should be releasing that probably in, I'm going to say February, March. It keeps on getting delayed because we have to do a whole sort of marketing thing before we release it. And it's got to be the right process through that. Otherwise, it's kind of not worth, in this day and age, just releasing something.
Sure.
If you want to get any kind of traction whatsoever, you need a little campaign and things like that. So.
Well, where can everybody look that up and track down the music?
That would be somersetband.com. Somerset with the spelling that I have, which is the weird spelling with summer like the season and 2 T's at the end.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I listened to it today. It is gorgeous music. It's
Well, thank you,
I don't know if I want to say folksy, but you've got this your voice is outstanding, and I'm not just blowing smoke at you. It's great stuff, and I'm going to be listening to more of it. I'll probably pick up an album myself. It's gorgeous stuff. Love it.
Oh, thank you, Scott. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I will send some stuff along to you if you want. We actually just recorded a live video 2 weeks ago, and it should be edited soon with one of our title songs from the new album. So
very cool. What's the name of that song?
It's called More of the World, and the album is going to be called Friends at the End of the House, which is one of the lines from that particular song, which I think we feel like it embodies the album really well. It is folksy. It's totally folksy with classical and jazz. That's what I would say. Yeah,
it sounds familiar yet fresh at the same time, which is refreshing to me.
Oh my God! Yes. Well, yeah. Thanks.
Well, you seem to be something of a Renaissance woman, delving into so many different art forms. How do you balance it all and still find time for you?
I don't. Just kidding. I think I talk to will say balancing life with work is a challenge because it's constantly saying yes and you're constantly looking for your next job. But maybe you could say that as a teacher as well. Like it's always a challenge. There's always something more you can be doing. And in this day and age, people always expect you to do a lot of stuff. So I could be better at that, to be honest. This year has been particularly fascinating. It's been one of the most exciting years for me, but I've traveled so much that I forget where I am sometimes. Like I put my feet down and then I'm like on a plane again. So like, for example, this weekend, I'm in Michigan. I'm back for 2 days, filming both of those days. And then I leave on a trip that goes LA, Texas, New Zealand, Montreal, New York, without really landing. And then I'm back in Montreal for a couple of weeks before I leave again. So I'm just like, woo, here we go. It's hard to balance anything, really. Like, you just kind of like fly by the seat of your pants and go, woo, I'm on an adventure.
So what do you do for fun? Do you play games at all, or do you?
I don't really have time to play games these days. I do game sometimes, and I love it when I do. But honestly, like playing with young kids like Raymond or something, I find super fun and relaxing.
Right.
But these days, what do I do? I work on album art and like basically all the things that I'll be releasing, because I find it such a joy to be able to release things and get projects done. And then I eat with friends. I go out. I'm a big foodie, and I do yoga. Yeah. I hang out with my partner. We do yoga together. He's filming things, so I'm helping him out with that. I wouldn't say it's downtime, but it's also super exciting. So,
sure. So you're an actor, you're a voice actor, you're a musician, and you're an artist. So you've got all four now.
Well, an artist is an act. I think they all go together. Don't you think?
Oh yeah, I'm just totally jealous of your talent. That's all I'm saying.
I didn't say I was talented. I just said I do these things. No.
Oh, that's awesome. You're doing what you love, and that's really, really awesome to hear. Now, I got one last question before I got a couple from the community here for you. We talked over email a little bit, and you mentioned that you had some big news this week. Was that the Breakpoint news, or do you have something else?
It was the Ghost Recon news. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Totally.
Okay, because we were all chomping at the bit. What's she going to tell us? What's she going to tell us? Is there anything you can tell us? And if you can, I totally understand it. Is there anything you can tell us about Breath of the Wild 2?
Oh, no. Not at all,
I figured as much.
Sorry.
It was worth a shot. It was totally worth a shot. So,
I'm really completely in the dark with that stuff. So.
I understand. I totally understand. And we're very obviously looking forward to the release of that. When they unveiled it at E3, we were practically drooling, especially because it seems like Zelda's going to have a little bit more prominent role than she did in the first one. So I
loved the trailer. Yeah, it looked very dark and interesting. Yeah, I agree.
Very cool.
Who knows? But yeah, I really don't know anything about it, to be honest.
Well, just a couple more questions from the community. Then, actually, one somebody you actually know apparently, Alyssa White, is a listener of our show. You know her?
No way, Alyssa White.
Yeah, I've actually podcasted with her.
Of course.
She said to tell you that she loves you because she said that she's a friend of yours. So
hello, Alyssa.
And her
Big
boyfriend
hugs.
Sean, they podcast together. He asked. He said he had an obvious question. Have you had, because he has a podcast called Horribly Awkward that you can listen to at horriblyawkward.com. You're welcome, Sean. He wants to know if you've had anything horribly awkward happen while in the booth at a job.
I mean, many times. I think one thing that I've learned not to do, and this is just like a really random thing, but I'm sure a lot of voice actors talk about the sounds that happen in a booth that you don't want to have happen in a booth. But I find so eating apples is a really great way of getting rid of noise clicks in your mouth, like eating a green apple. But what I've discovered is if I lick the apple, it's perfect. You get rid of the noise clicks. There's something about the acid in the apple that really clears out your mouth, like properly. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. But as soon as I swallow the apple, my stomach is like taking over an entire session, like just from like a bite of apple. So you lick the apple and you don't swallow it. This is it's so weird, but I was like, wow, this is truth. So I've tried it a few times.
Like the inside, not the skin. Like you actually cut the apple and then you lick the inside.
Yeah,
like
you
the
bite the
part.
apple. Yeah, you lick the juice, and that's okay. But just don't swallow any of the apple itself because it's like an easy to digest thing, or it's gets your digestive juices going, and it makes your stomach loud. So then you have like stomach noises in your session. This is my experience. This might not be everybody's, but mark my words.
That's hilarious. I'm imagining you have like a spit bucket, like in the movies whenever they have to do a scene where they're eating and it's just filled with green apples.
Oh gosh, that's great. It's apple season right now too.
Yeah, definitely. It's orchard season. Well, Patricia, that's all the time we're going to take because I know you got a lot going on, but thank you so much for taking the time to come chat with us. We really appreciate it. And like I said, it was an honor and a privilege to get a chance to talk to you.
Oh, my absolute pleasure, Scott. And I hope to get a chance to meet you at some point. It'll be super cool.
Fingers crossed. I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen for sure. Where can our listeners follow you, like on Twitter or your website, if they want to learn more about you?
I'm on all those things. I'm usually making my announcements on pretty much Instagram and Twitter first. So that's at Summersett _. That's it. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thanks again. And looking forward to meeting you in person someday, hopefully. And again, thanks for stopping by, and you have a wonderful rest of your evening, okay?
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for checking those out. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did recording them. We want to give a brief shout out to all three of those voice actors, Roger, Jon, and Patricia. We really appreciate you taking the time. And before we head out of here, I just want to take a moment to wish everybody that does celebrate Christmas a Merry Christmas, and everybody else, whatever you celebrate, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, any other holiday. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season.
We just went over this about an hour ago. It's a happy non-denominational winter holiday.
That's too many words, man. That's too many words.
It covers all the bases, though. You play it safe. Everyone's happy.
All right. Well, have fun with your families, everybody. Thank you so much for being willing to let us take a little bit of a break. We desperately need it. Need to step away from the mic for a little bit. So hope you guys had fun with this. And any last words from you, Zach?
Special shout out, of course, to our patrons that make this show possible and let us, be able to take breaks and also make us get interviews of this caliber.
Absolutely. Very good point. Very good point. And we should have a giveaway up by the time you guys hear this episode. So we still need to get one away for December. So stay tuned for that. But thank you so much. Thanks to Nate for putting together this episode for us. He puts in a lot of work for us, and I really appreciate him taking the time to splice together these interviews for you. Hope you guys all have a wonderful remainder of your year. We'll be back next week for another spliced together episode where we talk about some of our From the Outside In topics. In the meantime, just want to remind you second to last time for the year, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you.